Yeah. Because they don't want to put in place, they don't leave people, so they don't walk in to your trust.
Yeah. Why is it recording for the money? Why is it recording for the money?
I'm not, that's how it's set up for whatever reason. But you can stop recording and go flip there.
Yeah, it's so no, just because you. I think that's good. Sarah talking.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Sarah, do you do the attendance?
I'm happy to do it if you like, yeah. Miss Medley. Miss Dana Chen could not come today. Mr. Stuart Gardner could not come today. Mr. Jose Gomez said he could not come today. Mr. Patrick Hilly.
Here.
Mr. Ethan Heil.
Present.
Mr. Lee Condor.
Here.
Mr. Marty Meth.
Here.
Mr. Nathan Moore could not come today. Mr. Moon, we removed him from the list since he said he wanted to resign. Mr. Danny Yoder could not come today. Mr. Peter Thompson.
Present.
Mr. Greg Weaver, his term ended, but he said he could not come today. That's all, that's everyone we have today. That is, we have no one online.
So we have 6 people, we would need 7 to be.
I think because 2 positions are vacant, so that's the number we're considering. I don't know. Anybody else knows a different answer? But I think you have the majority of the people you're supposed to have.
So we have 11
Yes,
on the committee right now, so it's like, oh.
you do.
Wait, I'm sure.
Thank you. There's no remote members, so move on to matters from the public. Anybody?
Did I go up there?
Yes.
Please,
Okay.
you can state your name.
Yeah, Mr. Nathan just joined online.
Hi, my name is Paul Grady. I live just outside of Jose. My first encounter with transportation planning was in 1988. When the Albemarle County asked for citizen proposals for the western bypass. So I submitted one. What I found out later was that it more or less that's what they chose, except that they moved it from the east side of Stillhouse Mountain to the west side, and then all hell broke loose. But I didn't know about the MPO then, you know, so I wasn't able to come to meetings and express my opinion. So then in the year about 2000, I started attending the chart meetings, which I think this committee is the aftermath of the chart committee. Ann Mallard was the chairman of that committee then. So I made, over the next couple of years, 10 presentations to that committee on transportation plan ideas that I had. And one of them was chosen to be in the 2025 plan. Turned out it wasn't necessary, so it never happened. But I have an idea I'd like to present to you. And it's going to take longer than 3 minutes. So I'm asking for your permission to make a presentation at some future date.
Yes. Or.
Do you have a date in mind or?
Yeah.
Well, how long is the presentation?
How long would the presentation be?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe 20 minutes.
All right, and do you have a date in mind when you?
No, I don't.
Okay,
I would say probably in the fall.
okay, we have a meeting in July, September, we have a meeting and November, right?
Yeah, yes.
September, November, okay,
Mhm.
well, I'll come back at the September meeting, and then I'll know better when I can present it, maybe at the November meeting. Or is that,
Would it help,
No.
would it help to have an idea of what it is, to see if it might
Yeah.
fit into
Yeah.
an agenda?
And maybe if you want to, do you want to send an email maybe to staff and the chair and the vice
Mhm.
chair and sort of discuss some of that for what you're trying to present and the ideas that you'd want
I
to
can,
discuss?
yes, I don't have your email address,
We can write it down.
okay. It's the hydraulic 250 bypass Emmett Street disaster. Let's put it that way.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Yeah, so we'll give you email addresses and we can have you added to the agenda. In the future, then after the September meeting.
Okay, thank you.
See that Nathan Moore is here, as somebody wants to propose that he could be a voting member allowed, since we have a quorum here. Anyone wanna?
Yeah, I move that Nathan's disposal.
Second, all right, all in favor?
Can I just ask a question? I didn't just, because I know there's a lot of rules here, does he need to have a reason? I know at the RCP, somebody has to have a reason for being to vote. You know, sorry.
Oh,
You have to state your location and reason for virtual participation.
Yes, I am at my home in Albemarle County. My reason is that I need to multitask because of a work emergency.
Okay. All approved? Okay, any opposed? Right, then, it passes, Nathan, you can be a voting member this week.
Thank you.
Is there any other members of the public here? I don't believe so. So we can go on to review and acceptance of the agenda. Does anyone want to bring that to the floor? Go through the agenda for this week. Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, so that is approved, accepted. Does anybody have any comments on the meeting minutes from the last meeting from May 21st?
I noticed something in there that kind of goes a little bit to what Peter was mentioning, really fun, maybe Robert's rules, or maybe it's something I don't understand.
Yeah.
There were a number of great minutes, and but in some cases, the minutes would say that so and so, I think once it was me, voted to make something happen. And in fact, Lord, I don't remember, you know, I motioned or I
Yeah.
will. In other cases, it mentioned that the group approved the motion. So I don't think we have to do this all over at the next meeting. But the recording secretary should probably just make those small adjustments, if that's okay with everybody. Yeah, I don't know how important it is. It's not important. No, who made the motion and who seconded it? Well, but it's part of the record. And then when the record says, and Lee Condor voted to say that happened. Well, not Lee Condor voted certainly, but the group voted to make it happen, and that's it. Whatever, yes. I'm fine with all this ask for. Saying. I don't know Roberts that well, but I think that's.
But yeah, and if it should be recorded.
Assuming that we're following Robert's rules, but I don't know that.
Are following Robert's rules as best as we can, the best as I can. So do you want those changes made before we approve the minutes or just for the next?
Just like,
Did anyone have a motion about that?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting, May 21st meeting. Second.
All approved, all in favor?
I was absent, so.
Okay, any opposed? One abstention. Those are approved. And then, Taylor, were you gonna talk about the virtual meeting policy, or was that just this part?
Yes, I can. So at the first meeting of every fiscal year for all of our boards and committees, it is procedural and both in the law that we have to adopt the electronic meeting policy every fiscal year. So it's procedural. We included those in the packet for you all to read through them before adopting. And it calls out a couple specific items. You all already noted knowing about having to have an in-person forum before you're able to vote someone into the meeting that's participating virtually. That's one thing that I wanted to call out. And then additionally, there is a section in there about all virtual meetings. I am. See, and if I could just read that really briefly. The CA-MPO may hold all virtual public meetings pursuant to subsection C of the Code of Virginia. Such all virtual public meetings are limited to 2 meetings per calendar year or 50% of the meetings held per calendar year, rounded up to the next whole number, whichever is greater. And all virtual public meeting may not be held consecutively with another all virtual public meeting, so you couldn't have them back to back. But I wanted to point that out to you all, so in case when we get to the fiscal year 26 calendar of meetings discussion at the end, if you wanted to also decide which meetings would be virtual, you could do that as well today.
That means that we could have 3 all virtual meetings because we have 6 a year, so.
Yes, and they just can't be consecutive, so you can't have one and then the next meeting also be virtual.
So we need to vote to approve the policy.
Yes.
Does anybody want to bring that to the floor? And a second, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Approved. Thank you. So, we'll move on to new business. In the last meeting, we had a really great discussion about the CTAC bylaws. I really was very grateful for everybody's participation in that. When we brought it to the policy board that we were having this discussion and we were going to approve it, members of the MPO Policy Board also wanted to talk about CTACs. The role of CTAC moving forward, there was some discussion about like what it is that we are providing advice on. And it was originally, the committee was brought together for the long range training, long range transportation planning process. And then it got extended to be functional all the time. And so they wanted to have a discussion with the chair and vice chair of the policy board and myself and Donna, the vice chair of this board or committee. And so that meeting's gonna happen on Friday. And so I thought that in this meeting, instead of approving any like final amendments to that meeting, we could instead discuss how we're thinking about the bylaws after the last meeting, if there was anything that we especially want to bring up to the policy board. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to add to section 2B, a new item. And I'll state it roughly. I mean, the wording may have to be, to propose prospective solutions to identify transportation system deficiencies to the MPO Policy Board. I can repeat that slower if you didn't get it. So propose prospective solutions to identify transportation system deficiencies to the MPO Policy Board. Because section 2B basically defines what we're supposed to be doing, so it's just.
Yes.
My personal opinion is I think that should be there.
Thank you. I think I would be very happy to open this up to the general floor to just hear if anybody has any feedback regarding last month or last meeting. Thank you, Mr. Conver, for bringing that up. That was something that we had discussed too in that meeting about the role of providing advice and feedback, or not just the like technical advice to the policy board. So having that specific language would be good. Thank you.
Sorry, Lee, if you said this and it went through my ears, is that in addition to what's in the bylaws?
Yeah, there are 3 bullets there
Yes,
now, I just would be a 4th.
Thank you.
I wonder if we really. It always seemed to me that we discuss roads, but almost hardly anything else. And this is the transportation. And I wonder, where in the bylaws does it say that we will address all aspects of transportation? I came on originally, from New York, I was interested in really the public transportation. We spent so little on public buses, no subways. But we spend so little time on it, and there's gotta be something in the bylaws that really focuses the committee not only on roads, but the other transportation.
Yeah, thank you. Yes,
And then I have one of the pet peeves, if I might.
okay, let's let
Okay,
everybody have their turn and then we can come back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have had similar thoughts kind of going around in my mind. And particularly how this interfaces with, there's the bike and pedestrian advisory committee. Which again, if I tend to read transportation in the most broad way, sort of in my mind, even though I know we tend to focus on road and car based transportation. And then there's the CAT advisory board, which hasn't met in a few years too. So I'd be curious how this should or does not interface with those knowing that they have some restriction, informal or otherwise.
Nathan has his hand raised.
Thank you, I haven't seen that.
I do.
Yeah, Nathan,
I think I might have mentioned this the last one. It's actually back in the A section rather than the bullet points, but just in terms of the phrase broadest range of citizens in the region there on the last line, I'm not opposed to it necessarily, but at the same time, there's a lot of people who live here who aren't citizens, whether they're on permanent status or in some cases undocumented. And I just wanted to know if our charge was only for citizens or if it's for people.
residents or, yeah.
I support Nathan's point, and that would even get people as broad as, because it's not just residents.
Yeah.
We have visitors, we have people living in Green County who are using our roads, or our bus system, et cetera, so. We should be, unless there's a reason, the state law and everything else says we can't, we should be as inclusive as possible. I think that speaks to our
Could you expand on that? I didn't quite understand the difference you're trying to make there. Just change the word citizens to people. Yeah, but then he was saying something here that I didn't quite, he was making a point.
Oh, no, I think that's all, that's the whole point I was making, is change citizens to people, because we are serving a whole population that's not just US citizens.
What is the sentence in question?
The last part of A, the phrase broadest range of citizens in the region, I was just suggesting changing it to broadest range of people in the region.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's the efficient response to the needs of the broadest range of citizens. Citizens are kind of fundamental to what we're doing here, but I think I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, we are these citizens, transportation advisory. And so.
So would your name change then?
I think instead of just citizens, it would, yeah.
Like the name of CTAC? So,
Well, I think that the membership is all citizens of the region, and so.
Can we change our name?
I mean, that's
Well,
what,
we don't get-
you're like talking.
Yeah, and of course, the roads are open to everybody.
It doesn't say you have to be a US citizen.
No, you
in order
don't
to
know
serve.
anybody from a different state or a different country. Sidewalks are completely democratic. I guess, as I say, when I see citizen, I just see that as the foundation, everything, you know. VDOT, General Assembly, City Council, Works is all based on citizen input and the social compact that is between citizen and government. So, but I don't think maybe that's under consideration here.
My comment was.
What I wanted to say before that came up, so, yeah, I support what's been said. About getting intermodal, trails, bike lanes, buses.
I wanted to strengthen the pieces of, in section B there, sharing information with community members and providing advice, gathering and synthesizing information from the community to, operationalize a little bit more. If there was, like, the space to do that and have a more active role on those two places, because they seem aspirational right now, as opposed to, embedded in the committee itself. So that was my proposal to bring up, and I think, Marty, you had another comment to make?
Just a comment about the operation of CTAC.
Mhm,
It would be 6 times a year.
mhm,
I don't think it's enough to really get a consistent,
mhm.
to remember what happened after every 2 months.
Yeah,
And it really is now the whole bylaws that I happen to look at, I'm sure it's the wrong one, says we meet at least 6 times a year. I think we ought to change that to 8 or 9. I know that puts a different workload on the staff. But I mean, if you're gonna have really a consistent operating group, you need to have it flowing more evenly, and that's how it being done. And so the evidence of that is looking at people are not here tonight.
mhm. Yeah.
So that's a
Yeah, some say
suggestion.
at least 6 times.
So. I appreciate, Marty, you mentioning the concern for staff time. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, we should always be mindful of that, so I appreciate that. I know they'll say, whatever you need, but we should be mindful of that, so thank you. I mean, if it says at least 6, with the approach, we should add something to the chair and vice chair schedule, the annual calendar of meetings at the beginning of the year.
Mhm.
Because I've been on boards where that's the case, where it says at least 4 times or 6 times, and I was director of an organization, we were meeting 14 times a year for a while because we had so much going on, we required it, and then we cut back and cut back and cut back to every other month, and every other month was perfectly good for our organization. So it allows the flexibility depending on the workload and what's in front of us. I mean,
Yeah.
just say who schedules who
We
decides to
did
schedule.
meet more than 6 times last year because of the long-range transportation plan. So we had a special meeting.
It's a good example.
So we
Yeah.
can meet more often when needed.
I don't think that could also play into the discussion that we had about, the role of subcommittees too, and that subcommittees could be more formalized. For special purposes.
The other thing I would say this way, as both Peter and Lee know,
Mhm.
we were I'm on the CAC for RIO. Chair. I found that it was easier to run and more consistent, more input that we knew we were gonna be every night, just to be forward about it. And I found this a little bit more brutal in the sense that it's hard to remember what was the last meeting. And we skipped part, and so that's part, that puts a load, as I was the chair of the CAC, on the chair to really devise how to go forward.
Mhm.
So good luck.
Yeah.
No, but I think we really want to think about, as you're going forward, if you want to have some real input, but really develop some streams of things.
Yeah.
Part of it, of course, it would be a greater load on staff, but for the most part, in time spent here, we have 9 meetings here, 50% more time right here. And however, what we've been discussing is a deeper involvement in our advisory role. And which means that the 6-month schedule, I always find to be extremely dense with staff preparation. Showing all kinds of flow charts and so on. And if instead of 4 of those in the meeting, there were 3 or 2, your time here would certainly be spent, but maybe your time to develop that would be more than half, certainly, because you'd have, if there were fewer things on the agenda and we had more time to get into them at each meeting. That you could then also have more time to develop those of what was going to be presented. But it wouldn't necessarily be, other than the time spent here now.
Yeah.
50% or 70% or 100% more, depending on how many meetings there are of staff time. But again, that is a consideration. But I think, as Marty points out, I think it can be very beneficial to us and allow us the space to do what we keep asking to do.
It is worth noting, though, that the MPO Policy Board also only meets 6 times a year, so, since we are advising them, we're kind of on the same schedule.
Go ahead, Taylor.
I was just gonna add, I was gonna add exactly what you were saying, Lee, about our other 2 boards of the MPO also meeting every other month right now. And so if CTAC is also getting the items that goes there, we only have really enough kind of decision points for the MPO Policy Board for about every other month at a time right now. And we've had other boards and committees that have also reduced additionally the number of meetings that they've had, because we found that some months we simply don't have agenda items, or there aren't things that they need to take action on, and folks have opted not to hold those. So I think we have kind of a spectrum of how many times a month, the frequency for all of our committees. So it would really be up to you all, but most of our other MPO committees are just every other month right now.
Yeah, thank you. But I was gonna say, it's wonderful to hear how you are considering staff time and all that. But we come up with the agenda based on what's going on. So the agenda can be thick this month or less the other month, and so on and so forth. Because you are discussing what to bring to the policy board, as the policy board and you all discuss the path forward for CTAC, I would say it's good to worry about us, and but then think like what do you need for your role to be effective? And then it's good that you're considering our time in, but at the end of the day, I think it's you and the policy board. We're just here as facilitators, whether we say it's 4-minute meeting or 2 minutes meeting. If it happens to be 20 minutes, 20 meetings, I'm sure they find a way for us to be here. But if it's less meeting, that's good too. But I'd say focus more on what you need as a CTAC board to support the policy board in your role. And the agenda items vary.
Thank you.
We done with this frequency, can I circle back to your point? Do you have deeper may not be the right word.
Okay.
Can you tell us more about what you think about operationalizing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we hear often about the public engagement pieces that are being conducted by the policy board, by VDOT on their different efforts and on their planning issues. And we're asked to comment on it, but not to participate necessarily, except, I mean, that I've seen, there hasn't been like a direct role for CTAC in those. And I think that could be a place where we could grow and to have more of an active role in the public engagement sphere. I know that Donna in the last meeting talked about having a better web presence, having more like a place where people could comment online. I don't remember exactly the details that she had proposed. And yeah, just having. Yeah, I don't think I have specifics in my head right now. I would want to have a discussion with individuals who are interested in that and having a more active role in bringing this information into the community and how we can engage in those, and how we can participate and contribute to those engagement events that are being hosted, especially like around the long range
It might have been before your time on the board, but, a few years ago, we had focus groups, meetings and, members of this committee attended those.
Okay.
So that's really the last community, engagement that we were directly involved in, but yeah, that's certainly something that we probably should be doing more of when public meetings are set up to, gather input, we should be able to attend them. Or at least some members of the board, if not the whole board, but some members of this committee, they should probably attend just to hear firsthand what people have to say. There's a lot to be gained. In fact, when we talked about it, I remember correctly, we even talked about some, our own outreach, like participating in farm contests and with some. Yeah, something.
Yeah.
And go very far at that point. I mean, that was the time about you.
Yeah, thank you. That would be my time, but that would be really interesting. Ethan, I think you had very raised.
I was just trying to think about what you're saying and whether it's within the bylaws as written, or if there are additions that you think need to be added. Yeah, I was just trying to think in real time. The difference between there's sharing, which seems sort of one directional, but then the next bullet point has gathering information from the community. And so is your, I guess this kind of goes to the transportation. Does it include multimodal as well? I guess my question is, how specific do we need to be? Like, do we want, is it that we want to hold our future selves and future members accountable to this broader charge? Or does having a general charge that could emphasize the umbrella, is that sufficient?
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I think it does make sense, and I can see holding future members more accountable, having some role for individuals who can to sit on or to attend those other meetings with like the bike and ped commission and.
Peter Krebs, yes.
Yeah, and like, I guess I didn't realize that the cat policy board hadn't, cat policy board, is that what it was? They haven't been meeting?
Advisory.
Advisory, okay. Yeah, and I don't know that needs to be written into the bylaws or,
Oh, it's already there.
yeah,
so there's-
yeah, I mean, no, it's.
There's nothing to do with it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But like as the. I think that the policy board wanted to speak more broadly about the role that CTAC is playing in addition to just the bylaws discussion, and so to think about. How to build those functions out as a group.
Yes, I think the thing I'm hearing is that bylaws are the same. And then that point, I support the concept. I talk to people about transportation stuff all the time, but it's more broad than that. I haven't made it now, I've gone to committee for about a year, and I just at least one meeting, maybe two already. On how to bring what I hear from the community here, because it's more broad than these specific road projects that we do end up looking at. So I feel a bit of a loss, because I thought that was a big part of my purpose for being asked to be here, because I'm not a road engineer. Can't bring that stuff to the table. So I do want to hear, I mean, it'd be interesting to hear what the policy board does this, and what are they looking for from us? And we do have limited resources, and outreach to Tom, and things like that do take a lot of time. A lot of the places where you can table are on Saturdays, and personally, I'm busy on Saturdays. I'm not going to table as a volunteer. It's one of the times that I'm busy. Personally, that was my people that came for that. But I do wonder if there is a lot of surveys. I mean, our community is famous for surveying and asking people for information. And I don't know if we ever hear those reports more broadly. Maybe we do, and I missed it. That might be visualized too, rather than us necessarily doing things, but hearing what people have resources and our staff to get focus groups and things like that. What do they bring to the table, to help enlighten us in our discussion with what they suggested.
Yeah, I think, we have that, the result with those, especially with the local. Thing. That was when I came on, it was like a first challenge of that process, so I do remember getting. Those surveys and everything.
And it may be also, you know, maybe a C3, just did a big study or about must apply. You know, there's a lot of different things that doesn't have to be coming through the MPO, the planning district, there's a lot of other.
Yeah.
Organizations working on this feedback, there's a lot happening in that space right now. I support trying to focus more on that.
Be inviting
Beyond dollars.
other groups outside of.
We have to keep our hands right up there, learning here and doing it, and that would also help. Those groups be more aware of all of it, which hopefully you have to.
And Sarah, if you can say you have your hand raised.
No, I'm sorry, I'm used to raise my hand, I was in the classroom. No, I don't know if I understood you correctly, but I thought during your round table, you bring your information from different networks and so on and so forth. From different communities, needs and just general information. And then the chair brings it to the policy board and the vice chair brings it to the policy board. Perhaps to make it more formal, to make sure that your voices from your networks or your communities or your personal interests are, I don't know, put on record. You can, at the end of the meeting, you can make sure 3 points are specific that the chair will bring to the policy board and the vice chair will bring to the policy board, so that you know it was discussed here, but the appropriate channels are for the chair to bring it to the policy board and the vice chair to bring it to the policy board. So there's room to be heard, there's room to bring the information here. Yeah, but it just have to be, I guess, acknowledged and then there. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you say also. Is that there would be a conversation, this committee, vote saying, we agree with this, this is what we want, chair, vice chair.
It's just a thought, I think during your round table, people go around, they share their updates, they share information, what's going on. But then if you want your information to be brought, because that's the role of CTAC, to advise the policy board. Yes, the policy board will tell you what they need. Maybe the long range plan is going on. That's when CTAC was born. That's where CTAC is active and so on and so forth. But during the off year of the LRTP, things are still happening. Now, if you have things to bring to the board, you discuss them here, and then the chair brings them to the policy board and the vice chair to the. Perhaps at the end of the meeting, you can make sure you know what those are.
Yeah, I think that what we could do is after having a presentation, we could have like a moment to, as a group, to come together to say like what our response is, and like what our advice to the policy board and the technical committee would be on each of those, and to have that more formalized in the agenda. I don't know if that would have to be, would that be voted on, like the proposal, or would it just be agreed upon? Yeah, okay.
There almost seems to be
Make it too formal.
Yeah.
There seems to be an informal quality to that, where we could perhaps ask for volunteers to attend the next CAC meeting or what have you. And that the second bullet point under B seems to cover all of that. It says that we just got to put it into practice a little, a little more vigorously.
Sounds good. Thank you. So I've been taking notes about everything that we just discussed, and what my plan would be is to bring this to this discussion on Friday and to share all of this information that we discussed. And so this is something to vote on, so does anybody want to bring that to a vote?
Do we need to vote on the proposed changes first?
I don't think so. I think just like that I would bring these, I mean, I don't personally feel like we need to vote on this, but it is.
I don't think you're right, yeah.
Okay,
But you.
Okay. I'm happy to do that. I'm gonna attend this meeting. I will share all of this information with the policy board. And we can have that discussion.
Yeah, they are ultimately, he will change our bylaws if they're so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
So Sarah, as you move on, I know we approved the agenda, but if I'm right, Patty Taylor needs to or plans to stay for the whole meeting. Is that typically? Yes,
I'm sorry, what was the question?
would you typically stay for the whole meeting?
Yes.
Would it be okay with the group, to let Mr. Williams go next, because he doesn't need to stay here all night, and he's probably been at work since 6 o'clock this morning? Would that be okay, so he can
Mhm.
do his thing and go? And just generally, I know that we follow this new business, old business.
Mhm.
I think it's always good if we have guest speakers who are just here to do something. If we can have them as early in the agenda so they can go about their way, I would think that's a good practice. But
I agree.
No objections from me?
Yeah. Okay, so we can move on to, that's the. I don't know what are you presenting on? Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
So,
Oh, I see, the low and no emissions project.
yes.
Yes, thank you.
I believe you were at the last RTP meeting,
I was.
the right?
The policy board, yeah.
Policy board meeting, okay, thank you.
I just don't develop a smile to Mr. Williams.
Yeah. You should.
I haven't done that in long, the 5 or 6 years we've known each other.
That's true, but you started growing.
You're growing in your position.
We could try. Mr. has been a good friend.
We've had some great discussion. We're getting closer to what you had envisioned before, right? I appreciate it. This one?
Yes, or I think this one, I didn't try it on, but no, yeah, it's what we're doing. I think it's either back or that. Yes. Yes, that. Oh, no, the other way around. Yes.
Got it.
It's confusing.
So this is back. This is back and this is forward.
Glad you have done on giving this presentation.
So, you see my name, listed, I'm Garland Williams, Director of Charlottesville Area Transit. Presentation that we have, we actually gave this presentation twice now, this will be the third time. We've given this, presentation to the RTP, the Regional Transit, Partnership. And we've also given it actually to the technical, which I did, and then to the actually policy board. So this is actually the fourth time we was given this presentation. Want to make sure that the CTAC had an opportunity to hear what was being presented to all of those groups. We had a unique opportunity. We believe that we weren't sure that the low and no emission grant was going to be available based on the change in administration. This round was $1.1 billion available to all transit agencies, which is a great number. We have a couple of major capital projects that we've been working on. We've condensed that down to basically one. We're going to talk about a few of them, but we're going to really concentrate on the maintenance facility. Bruce White, who is our senior project manager, and I have been in a bunker, basically with a consultant working on the NOLO grant. I actually just went through. We finished up Monday, so Saturday. And an update on Monday, couple little things we had to go back in. So we're very hopeful that we're going to be able to take advantage of that discretionary grant. That would help us move a pretty vital piece of our capital project along. So I want to give you an opportunity to hear what's going on with CAT. So I'll turn it over to Garland.
So good evening, everyone. I'm Bruce White. I'm the senior project manager at CAT. Work directly for Garland. And I've been on the job about 1 year. So everything you're seeing in this presentation is kind of the summation of what I've done since last June. So it's kind of a general update of our capital programs. It ended up gravitating towards the LONA, which was due on Monday. We got it in on time. And we asked for a good deal of money, but we think we could justify it. So we're pretty excited about that. So when I arrived in June of last year, these pieces were already in work. Kimley Horn, a major firm in this area, was already retained. And they were in the process of generating 3 pieces to this puzzle that are absolutely essential to get FTA funding and to keep a major project like this moving forward. The first one was a feasibility study. It was related to everything. It related to the buildings, the routes, the drivers, just the whole ball of wax of what CAD is doing, what's feasible, what can we do, what do we need to do. So it was really a heavy lift. And it took a number of months, and we published that first. The second piece, the focus was the site evaluation. Kimley Horn had a sub, and that was Wendell, the architecture firm, another major firm that was focusing on the buildings and the ground underneath them. So the second piece of the puzzle was, okay, we know feasibility wise, kind of generally what we want to do. Let's look at the site specifically. Let's really pull back the layers of the onion and see what our buildings can do and what the ground will accommodate. Because terrain is a big deal for transportation, especially because the parking is fairly, voluminous to park. We're parking 40 buses right now, but if we're gonna grow and expand, we have to account for that. In addition, the focus was a transition to zero emission. A whole new ball game, so the building that we have right now wasn't really designed for that, it wasn't geared for it. It was built 2008 to 2010 timeframe, and it was mainly diesel focused building. So for the last few years, you've all been discussing, okay, we want to transition to zero emission, whether it's, I think you started off talking about natural gas, which is no longer in the discussion. Now we're talking about hydrogen and electric, and the pilot programs that were authorized by council. Our building won't support those, and it's mainly a safety issue. Electric, very significant. It's not really a concern, but you have to be ready for a fire. Because batteries are very difficult to put out, so the safety apparatus has to be there for batteries. Hydrogen is a different set of safety requirements. It's mainly ventilation with hydrogen. So it's sensing, ventilation, hydrogen is lighter than air, it rises. All that was done. So for the second piece that you're seeing there, right there, Wendell, the architecture firm, went through all this to publish their site evaluation. And finally was the transition plan, taking the feasibility where you want to go, looking at what you have, what's our plan? Let's give you a concrete set of rules and set of processes that can get you to where you need to be. And I'm a project manager. This is a long-term project. We're kind of shooting out 15 to 20 years because the buses have a lifespan generally of 12, 13, 14 years, depending on what type of bus it is. So the plan is not to replace all the buses wholesale. Some very wealthy jurisdictions are doing this across the country. They'll just come in and get rid of all their diesel buses and bring in, in a more rapid schedule. But most jurisdictions are more fiscally prudent and they're replacing their buses as they high time out. So it's just common sense, right? So that's what our plan is. That's mainly the transition plan. So you've got to replace the buses if you're going to move to zero emission. You have to have the buildings that support it. You have to have the real estate to accommodate it. It's pretty complex little puzzle to put together. That's why I'm here. So right now we're operating on the upper part of this. It's a 6-acre site. That's CAT. I may have been to CAT.
What is coming?
Oh, you guys need a tour. So you came down to your building here. You should really come out and see it because it's really impressive. I was impressed when I came to, and on the buildings on the upper larger 6-acre block, 1545 is the admin. That's the brain trust. That's where Garland's office is, the director, all his chief deputies are there. It's more an administrative focused building. 1349 is the maintenance facility, very important. We cannot serve the public with buses without really top-notch mechanics, top-notch scheduled and unscheduled maintenance. We have a 5-bay garage right now. It's an interesting building because it was one of those pre-engineered buildings. We kind of joked that it was an erector set building. But it's a good building, but it has limitations, and especially with regard to the issues I talked about safety-wise. Even the weight of the new buses are heavier. A lot of the buses have mechanical on the top of the buses now, the batteries, the hydrogen, a lot of the gears on top. So you need catwalks, then you need straps to hold the workers so that they're safe. It's really complicated. This building doesn't accommodate it. It accommodates much of what we do right now, but it's not a long-term building. So that's 1549. The other two smaller buildings, 1555 is our service lane, that's where they're fueled. Money, I think the vault used to be there, we're still fare free, so there is no vault action right now. But this is a small building mainly for fueling. And 1559, that's the wash rack, that's the high-speed power washing. How often are the buses washed?
Every other day.
Every other day, every bus is washed every other day. Interesting thing about the wash rack, a lot of it is with rain harvested water, so it's green to the level it can be, so that's good. So the next parcel is really, really important to our analysis. The one in the middle is a 3-acre parcel that the city of Charlottesville bought in 2001 from the owners of the 4-acre parcel to the south, Delaney Plumbing. How many have ever heard of Delaney Plumbing? It's a venerable Charlottesville business. It's been here since the 70s. I think they moved from the Northeast, from either New York or New Jersey. I forget where, but they brought their whole business down lock, stock and barrel back in the 70s. I think it was 75, 77, something like that. And they started operating there, manufacturing plumbing equipment. So that's what they did. And they used to own both those parcels, the 4-acre parcel and the 3-acre parcel. Charlottesville bought the 3-acre parcel from them in 2001, and it's been sitting there ever since. It was a brilliant stroke by the city because I think they probably got a fair price, and it was for long-term growth. We've hit the point where long-term growth is not. We need the parcel to do the things that I just described for you. We've also contemplated and discussed that perhaps purchasing the current Delaney parcel where the building is, and that's the 4-acre parcel. We've had some very limited conversations with them thus far. They're not enthusiastic about selling, but we're studying it anyway in case we head in that direction. So this is the current site. This was done by Wendell, the architecture firm. It basically just shows what I just said in the kind of a schematic format. We're on the 4-acre parcel on the left side of the picture. Now, what Wendell did was they did a conceptual design. We paid very little money for this. It's not a 30% design. It's not 20% design. It was just conceptual so that we could start to plan, arrange funding before we move into a 30% design. But it's still important. And what it is, it's basically a new maintenance facility, and that's this building right here. It's a 7-bay. 2 of them are drive-through in case we have articulated buses, or it may be more efficient to drive through. But it will have all the safety features, state-of-the-art maintenance facility, many of the things that our current building does not have. This drawing also includes a hydrogen area. In the early stages, hydrogen is very interesting. If we do go to hydrogen buses, which many jurisdictions are across the country, you kind of do it in stages. Because early on, most jurisdictions, they import their hydrogen with tube trailers or some type of smaller scale operation, because you don't have like 15 or 20 hydrogen buses showing up. You start with 3, 5, 7, and then you build your fleet, as I said, as the buses retire. So this would be hydrogen storage and fueling. It's not hydrogen manufacturing in the early years. This is battery electric here charging. Battery electric is interesting because each bus basically requires its own charger and wiring system. If you're operating under a system where you're charging your buses at night, driving them most of the day, all the buses need their own charging apparatus every night. There's also, there could be midday charging where some of the fleet for certain routes come back and they get a little bump up on the, maybe they're at 40%, you want to take them to back to 80% so they can finish the routes. That's another option. But these are chargers. We're also putting in chargers right here. The difference between this one and this one, of course, is this set right here is on our existing lot. So we are using this area right here to install our pilot program chargers, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So in addition to the 3 documents that I just discussed that Kimley Horn produced for you, we had those 3 documents that Garland and I sat down and looked at each other and we're like, Garland, We don't know how much this is gonna cost. I mean, that is critically important. So we had Kimley Horn, we got him back on the phone, we gave him another purchase order. We need a no kidding number for the infrastructure. How much is this gonna cost in the phase? So they produced a document for us. We focus first on what we're calling phase one now, and this is what we used to structure the logo submission that we just made. So Kimley Horn gave it, and it's kind of, there's two major pieces to the cost estimate. There's the infrastructure, the buildings and land, if we purchase land. And then the rolling stock, totally separate, that's a whole different analysis. My focus personally is the infrastructure, the sticks and bricks. So Kimley Horn made a number of assumptions, we don't need to get into the weeds, but they, a couple key things, they inflated at 5%, which is a fairly robust inflation number. We wanted to make sure that when we submitted the Lono grant application, that it was robust enough that we had enough money. So we didn't ask for 37 million, then we come back and find out it cost 60 million. That wouldn't have been good for anyone. So we told them to be generous, to be realistic, operate in good faith, but don't scrimp, because that's not gonna help us when we're going to FTA to get money. So they inflated at 5%. There's little things that are excluded, the electrolyzers, if we produce hydrogen, is not included. BEV fleet infrastructure for charging is not included, no offsite electric. This is kind of an important one, because as we plan for 15-20 years, and especially whether we go hydrogen or electric, both systems will probably impact the grid. So we're dealing with Dominion, we're talking to them continually. Their grid must support what we're doing. Everyone always asks at this point, usually, what about solar? Can't you generate your own? Yes, we can, but to power buses is really power intensive. And there are ways to put solar off-site, but we cannot charge buses with 9 acres or even 11, 12 acres. There's just no way it's gonna happen. So we could put solar, and it'd be helpful, it would take a portion, but we have to be realistic in the assumption we're operating off of right now is most of our power will come off the grid. We want to work closely with Dominion. If there is a substation upgrade, whatever, we want to talk to them about that. So the bottom line is Kimley Horn produced a numbers for us on phase one, and where we ended up is just about 40 million. For the phase one maintenance facility that I just showed you on the 3-acre parcel that we already own, we don't need to purchase the land. And that's to develop that, and the timeline would be roughly, you could see the timeline by FY 30, next 3 to 5 years, we hope to build it out. We just submitted the loan, as Garland discussed, asking for the federal funding for just under 40 million. It was 39,900,000 to be exact. We wanted to have a 3 in front of it, so we asked for that, and then there was a 20% match. So there's another 8 million on top of that. So the whole project right now in our Lono package was about 48 million that we submitted. And we felt that was, like I said, not overly generous, but it would encompass the project and what we needed to have done.
So Bruce, when you say match, who's matching? I have an assumption, but
You want to talk about the match?
Local match, so there's a local match requirement, so it's 20% from the city to make that happen.
Also, just want to check that.
Yeah, and that's real money, $8 million, that's a lot of money. But, I mean, look at the investment for the city. If someone say, 20% on a dollar, would you make that investment? Usually, yes.
You gotta have it, so.
Yeah, we got one shot at it, so that's the other piece that we wanted to make sure we didn't undershoot our estimates. When we asked for this grant, it's one time, we can't go back and ask for more if the number changes.
Yeah, so there's where the 37, 38 million. Right there. These are their numbers. Carl and I didn't generate these numbers. It was a fully independent external vendor who did it. Some of the specifics: 25,000 square foot building, 7 bays, as I said, state of the art safety. We cannot, if we're going to transition to zero emission, which hopefully is still the goal. Political winds have
been blowing in different directions lately at the federal level. But if we're gonna transition to zero emission, we cannot do it without a new building. The only other option is to retrofit our current building. That's another discussion. Kimley Horn and Wendell looked at that, since it is a pre-engineered building, it's kind of, the erector said. Not a super robust building, it'll be very expensive to retrofit it, 15 to 20 million range to upgrade the current building. Plus, the one thing that we would lose if we did that is the ability to phase the project. Cause right now we're operating with a diesel fleet, we're gonna transition to zero emission. It's so much easier. We visited other sites, namely Champaign, Illinois, talked to many other leaders in the industry. It's hard to transition to zero emission, to upgrade your garage, to operate diesel, hydrogen, electric, all out of the same building while you're building a new one. You know, it's like flying the airplane and building at the same time. So not only is the building deficient, but it provides for phasing, because we've got this beautiful lot next door, build a whole new building, and then we shut down the diesel building at the appropriate time. So that's the plan. We're also putting the pilot infrastructure in. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So before we can develop that 3-acre parcel that we own, there's a NEPA analysis. Many of you have probably heard that term. It's what we're focusing on right now. It's an environmental federal statute that we have to go through various steps before we can qualify for federal money. So NEPA, at the lower part of the slide, are the 5 key areas. We've been working on this about 3 months now. And we hired another firm, it's called RK&K out of Richmond, and they are crushing. They're doing a great job. One of the reasons we went to a different firm was because we took competitive bids, of course, for any major project like this. But there was also a conflict issue that if we do have Wendell and Kimley Horn help us with the design for the building, it's not a good idea. This came right from DRPT, the Virginia Transportation Team, saying it's generally not a good idea to hire the same firm that may benefit from the NEPA analysis. So we have a totally independent firm determining whether the land is viable for the project. So they look at hazardous materials, that's the environmental piece. They're looking at traffic, they look at cultural resources, that's kind of the human element as it interacts with the property. They could go all the way back to Native American, it could be Civil War, battle, graveyard, whatever. If there's any human element on that land, they're gonna find it. Noise and vibration, we don't, that's minimal in this case because there's no. We're not like changing the nature of the land very much, we're just slowly and incrementally transitioning, so that's not a big deal. Natural resources, those are the bats and the northern butterflies and all those. Most of these areas have already been completed and were successful. So we're sitting really good on the NEPA and we're really happy about that. One thing that I'd like to reiterate is the scope of the NEPA is we're looking at both of the lots, even though we may not be able to buy this from Delaney because they just don't want to sell. You know, and we can talk about that. And I'll let Garland, do you want to say anything about lot 3?
I would just say the purpose of doing the NEPA on lot 3 is to also, if they do change their mind, we would already have the foundational documents to allow us to move forward, right? We're having to stop the project and go back. That allows us to continue to move forward in a very productive way. Timelines are crucial here, trying to make timeline to fit the existing administration. So that's why we wanted to make sure we included it in our scope.
Thank you. And we've just been colloquially referring to these as lot 1, lot 2, lot 3. So if I say lot 3, that's the Delaney lot. Okay, one key thing with the NEPA is there are 3 levels of process for a NEPA action. And we just met with the FTA, the decision makers, last week. We had a really productive meeting. We've been kind of banking on the fact that we would be a categorical exclusion, and FTA pretty much said, yes, this is a categorical exclusion. Like, we're not building an airport, we're not changing a lot of things. We have a 3-acre parcel we already own. It's gonna be the same operation, just a little larger than what we're currently doing. So it meets all the criteria for categorical exclusion, which is a great thing for us. All right, battery electric infrastructure. This was another cost estimate that came from Kimley Horn, and you know, they're saying 4 million. We think that's a little high, but what we're doing on the existing lot that I showed you, those battery electric chargers in the corner here. This is the admin building, this is the maintenance garage. Is we're gonna put in infrastructure to charge electric buses. It's our first piece operationally of our transition to a whole or partial zero emission fleet. We have 2 electric buses on order right now. They'll be delivered in next summer, June of 2026. We're gonna order 2 more shortly, so that will take us up to 4. And as I said, you can't run electric buses without the charging infrastructure. And it's not like a little charger in your garage. These buses are majorly, and the charging equipment is fairly expensive. I mean, it's, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, and not only that, but you can't run off the power of the building. We're fortunate that we're on Avon Street Extended, and there's a major power line right on our lot almost. So what we're gonna do is put a new power pole over in this area. And we're fortunate also that UVA just did the exact same thing, kind of the same scale. They're a little bit ahead of us, which is good. And we're modeling, talking to them all the time. We're using their engineer. It's been extremely beneficial to me. So bottom line is we're gonna put a new power pole in. There are other pieces, these power blocks, and there's dispensers and a transformer and a meter and, you know, typical kind of industrial scale electric installation. But we're gonna put a power pole, and then we're gonna have dual dispensers. And one interesting thing is kind of in the industry. Optimally is drive-through charging. You bring them, so you don't have to back the buses. Backing the buses is always complicated. They're 40 feet long, 35 foot long. But we're going to put the dispensers here, and we will be pulling in either backing the buses in or backing them out. And the reason is because we just don't have space to accommodate drive-through charging. And it is what it is. So, and UVA had the same thing. I don't know if who's been to the Milmont, UVA, you know how tight they're tighter than we are. They had to do the same thing, pulling in, backing out. They're putting a lot of stuff in a very small area. We have a little bit more luxury than them, but we're still space constrained. So these chargers, we think would be better off if we get the 3-acre lot in ports, if we get the adjoining 4-acre lot. Everything we drive through, it'll be good. So anyway, we're gonna put the dispensers, a hose on each side of it. There'll probably be at least 3 out here. Dual dispensers, so that will be charging for 6 buses. We may end up putting 2 of the chargers in the maintenance garage temporarily, because you need to be able to power the buses up to work on them. We're still waiting, we're still working on that with the engineers to decide what we're gonna do. But the plan is just to, like I said, bring the power pole in, and then we're gonna tunnel under here. We'll just, it's a short run, so it shouldn't be bad. We don't even have to cut pavement or asphalt, so that should be pretty simple. Now, hey, that's my last slide. So that's kind of what I've been working on for the last year. Any questions? I'm up here. Yes, sir.
In terms of, you said there's a main line going out there for Dominion, that would have enough power for just this space?
Absolutely. Yeah,
So you'd have the transformer and you'd be in business.
we're gonna put in the power pole, a new transformer, and they're sizing it appropriately for 8 separate dispensers. And then the dispensers have these power blocks, and that's the expensive part as far as the charging equipment. But right now, it's really a grid question. So we're gonna pull up a main line off the power pole, and we're good. Dominion hasn't said anything about our pilot program. But for a transition like this, we really need to be talking 10, 15 years up the road. And what is the grid plan? Because have you been to Dominion site where it shows their grid load?
I have not, I was trying to envision where maybe their nearest transformer switching station to that location was, and I couldn't picture anyone out there around there.
Yeah.
But maybe there is, I don't know.
Yeah, if you log on,
I don't really know what their grid looks like.
Yeah, if you log on to Dominion site, they actually have a website that shows their current draw, and it's like daunting because it's not totally maxed out right now, but something will have to be done in the next 10 years if we're gonna put large scale electrical draws, whether it's hydrogen or electric, on our current lot to beef up the grid. And then it gets down to who's paying for it, But
And then in terms of, on the other side, the hydrogen, I guess, is readily available, so.
Hydrogen is interesting, but we're studying it hard. It's the newest, sexy thing that everybody's talking about because it has so many benefits. Right now, the electric buses do not have the range that all the transit agencies wish they did. Hydrogen has the range. Hydrogen's a little different though, because you need hydrogen and you have to source it. So we're pretty good on the sourcing. We've got a number of different options in that area. When you move to hydrogen, one of the earliest decisions is, are you going gaseous hydrogen or liquid hydrogen? And it's a whole different group of equipment that you need, different price points. The preferred is liquid, but it's more expensive. Depends on the scale of your operation. There's a lot of different variables. What we're authorized right now by City Council from last March of 2024 is a pilot program in hydrogen, which would mean imported tube trailers and maybe a small storage, but a dispensing mechanism, the equipment, and it would be very small scale, and it would still be expensive, but it would be small scale so we could see how do we like hydrogen. And but we're studying it so hard. You want to talk about Champaign, all the trips we've made?
I would just say that we've done our due diligence. We've taken 30+ people out to Champaign, Urbana, MTB, and you did a tour, two tours. They're cutting edge on their technology use out there. They're one of the 3 or 4 major transit agencies that are really pushing really hard on the transition to hydrogen. They did it in reverse order. They're going to add battery electric, but they went hydrogen first. One of the last pieces that they will add is battery electric because they were concerned about the range. So we were authorized to battery electric first, hydrogen second. It's a 1-for-1 replacement, which is not necessarily the case when we do battery electric. But I would say technology wise, I believe it's a lot of transit agencies in the next 5 to 7 years will start to transition to hydrogen. If we can be on that cutting edge, I think we'll position ourselves to take advantage of some of the additional funding that will come available in the next 5 to 7 years, and that's hopefully be very beneficial to Charlottesville.
So, just, and your prospective vendors for hydrogen, are they?
Well, it's interesting. It's really 2 different questions that you're asking. One is the hydrogen, the other is the buses. You need hydrogen buses, and
How many those?
yeah, that's it. It's
on 2 companies right now.
yeah, it's interesting because we like 35-foot buses. And kind of the default in the industry is either 40 or 60-foot buses. We like our buses a little smaller because of our roads here in Charlottesville. And it kind of fits our operational tempo and ridership better. So that's a challenge for us, is a 35-foot hydrogen bus. And there's only 2 manufacturers generally, is Gillig and New Flyer. There's been some European buses that may enter our market, but then you get into the whole Buy American thing, and they have to put a factory here, and it gets very complicated very quickly. But right now, two manufacturers, New Flyer and Gillig.
Can you buy hydrogen from the same guys you buy?
I should have answered that question too. So the sourcing, it's funny. Hydrogen, a lot of jurisdictions are transporting their hydrogen a long way. Philadelphia has a major hydrogen system they're starting right now. I think they have 12 buses they're getting ready to put online, even operational capacity. Like, no kidding, they're running routes. They're bringing their hydrogen in from West Virginia to Philly. And if you look at the map, guess what's halfway? Charlotte. So I mean, when I first got here, we were really concerned where we're going to get our hydrogen from. But now that I've looked at it, we could easily go to the West Virginia plant, because I guess there's water there and there's really cheap electricity. It's all about the electricity normally for the hydrogen generation. So it's very similar to the whole computer server issue. So there's in West Virginia, there's a source in Virginia, here in Virginia, that is for it's the byproduct of an industrial product. Industrial procedure, excuse me. So hydrogen is vented off, they're throwing it away right there, right now, so that would be gaseous, so that's an option. We could produce our own if we wanted to, either electrically off the grid or with a giant solar field like they're doing in Champaign right now. So we're not as concerned with the sourcing of the hydrogen, I think, as we were maybe 10 or 12 months ago.
That's right.
Yeah, I think we're comfortable that we're gonna be able to source it. The buses are a little more challenging. Like, are you gonna make these buses for us?
Well, the hydrogen buses, fuel cell or internal combustion?
Yeah, fuel cell electric bus, they're called FCEV, so the hydrogen actually drives a battery that's on the bus.
Right.
But the batteries are much smaller than the BEVs, the battery electric buses. I think the batteries are maybe 20%, 30% size wise between the two buses.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, I've been sort of eagerly watching this from the sidelines. The due diligence you've done is like pretty incredible that you've taken so many trips. Just to share my bias, so I do carbon accounting and life cycle assessment and things like that. And I helped with UVA's sort of initial sort of foray into the space, and pretty quickly on, we saw some hurdles to going hydrogen because of the sourcing. And so
Yeah.
I'm curious, if you are you committed to electric based hydrogen? I know you mentioned this byproduct approach, but you know, the thing that's hard to, I guess, project into the future is that, you know, 95% of hydrogen comes from natural gas now. And when you're drawing the boundary, if we're presuming this is a climate action step,
Right.
those things really matter, and they're really hard to track, and pretty quickly you can lose track of those things. The example you gave
The
of
sourcing
getting
of the hydrogen, what
even
kind of
like
hydrogen?
West Virginia based electricity is more emissions intensive than our electricity. And if we're not tracking it, it's pretty easy to.
That must be the hook for me. I would just.
One, 2 minutes. That's the voice of carbon emission.
This has been submitted already.
I think it's okay.
Was this-
Oh, no, yes, it was submitted, as Garland said, we basically submitted it Saturday, we
Yeah.
fine tuned one document on Monday. It was due Monday. And we got in on time, and it's a really high quality product, we hired a consultant to help us. Our KK helped us with the submission, and it's really, I thought it was really well done, I'm really impressed.
I would say that, to answer your question, the pursuit of excellence shouldn't be the enemy of the good, right? So we know that the market for hydrogen is going to get better. Technology has gotten better, whether it's battery electric or CNG. Everything is getting better. So when we were out in Champaign, they were very adamant about just getting the hydrogen first. And they realized that the byproduct of what comes out is much cleaner than anything else they could produce, right? So it's only producing water vapor at the end. And as the grid gets cleaner, the product that we have will get cleaner over time. And we're not buying 90 of them right now. We're buying three more, 6 for authorized up to 8. So we're only getting authorized up to 8 vehicles in our test model. Or is it 6 in this one?
For the battery electric,
It's 6 in battery electric and 6 in hydrogen too? I don't remember.
you're the boss, so you tell me, girl.
I don't remember. It was actually in the document. So it was, I think it's 6 and 6, but either way, so we're not talking about buying 30 of these things, right, at this point in time, right? One, we need to figure out, do they work for us? Champaign is a little bit different than Charlottesville. And how easy is it going to be for us to get the hydrogen, right? Coming in from West Virginia, or there's supposed to be another one producing in Delaware or something similar coming up fairly soon. So we're hopeful that we can learn as we, build out our new model, test it, and then figure out whether We go hard on the battery electric side or the hydrogen side. As the grid gets cleaner, as the hydrogen production gets cleaner, I think we'll eventually get to that zero emission piece that everybody wants.
Yeah, and there are negative aspects of whichever platform you choose. If you stick with diesel, there are problems. You go
Yeah.
natural gas, problems. Battery electric, problems. Hydrogen, problems. Well, I shouldn't say problems, challenges.
Yeah.
Every platform has a different issue, so you have to decide what's the most important.
Yeah, part of the concern, and I think I'll let this go because we could spend all night talking about this kind of stuff, but the battery electric, if we were to go 100% battery electric, and this is the thing that we looked at, is that we don't have the capacity to do that, meaning that we don't have the space, because it's almost like a 1.2, 1.3, 1.6 now. That's
If
the cost.
Kimley Horn in their study, the feasibility study, they said, what if you go wholesale battery electric, given the current ranges of the buses, what would you need? You would need to buy 1.6 buses for every current diesel bus that you
That's
have.
right.
And on certain longer routes are really demanding routes, you would start with one bus, you'd do like half the day, and then you jump out and jump in a new bus, maybe at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something, because the buses won't support the.
Well, here's the reason, I mean, part of it, absolutely, that was in our document in the report for Kimberly Horn. But also what was important is because you can't take the battery charge on the commercial vehicles all the way down to zero. It doesn't work on that model. Having the vehicles have problems when they get below 40%. So at that point in time, we want to make sure we stay within that 60% range. So therefore, it's not going to be able to complete a full day. You would have to take it. So majority of the time, you want to keep it at that 50% mark, which means you would change out pretty much halfway through its total hours of the day with a brand new bus.
And that's if you do overnight charging.
That's
There is another option for midday charging, the very expensive infrastructure with a pantograph or,
Yep.
wireless charging in the pavement. These are all options. The buses are a lot more expensive and the infrastructure is hugely more expensive.
But we're not just, it's just topping off. It's not,
Yeah.
you're not filling up the vehicle by just having a pantograph. If you let it sit there, you're only sitting there for 5 to 7 minutes at the end of the line, right? So it's, is the juice worth the squeeze? You're spending $8 million or so to get this new contraption out there to do top off your charging, and you still may not make it to the whole thing.
Yeah, and I appreciate all this. I didn't mean to derail the conversation. It's just to make the point that when the emissions leave the tailpipe, they get much harder to track.
That's right.
And it gets easy to track the cheapest source of hydrogen as opposed to the source that does the climate action that we are supposedly paying for.
That's right.
It sounds like that's something we'll continue to track as this develops, so.
We'll keep track.
Absolutely. It's a great.
It's a requirement of us to track.
Is there any, how do you quantify the benefit in terms of operations, not in terms of dollars, but in terms of turnaround time with the new buses versus the diesel buses? I'm just sort of curious.
So I would say it's that's a great question, because the charge to CAT is not specifically around that concept. The concept that we are charged with is making sure that we get it as the city's charged to get us emissions free, right? So that's our singular focus. The operational components that we will be tracking, because we have to as a part of this pilot program. We will see what the benefit is. We are hoping that the benefit is we have a much cleaner fleet, right? The emissions in our carbon footprint goes way down. And the folks who are using these vehicles, our drivers and the public, have a much cleaner and more productive ride. And so that's the environmental component. Operationally, we don't know what it is. That's why we're doing the pilots. We'll figure out what that means.
Yes, I'm joking a little bit, and then bought more diesel.
Clean diesel.
You might be ahead.
Our buses are clean diesel right now, so they're really not.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're good.
Yeah, we're still buying clean diesel right now. We just bought some new buses and they're beautiful. They're on our lot, so.
So why change? That's really.
Because the city has made a commitment to zero emissions.
Wonderful, okay.
Yeah.
But
And we know where you stand now, city.
county is paying part of it.
The county's not paying part of that.
Well, we're contributing to CAT. Is it?
You only contribute
Right.
operationally, but not on capital.
Not on this portion.
Not on the capital side, no, sir. The county does not contribute capital.
Just on the operations.
Just on the operations side. We would love for the county to contribute on the capital side.
Okay, so thank you all. I'm gonna leave and your restructuring of the schedule.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, great.
Yeah. We had the travel management study.
You got it, Blake. Okay, oh, okay. Take care.
Well, yeah, I will take it.
Okay.
Thank you. Carolyn gave me this cool card that I just passed to you, but it goes back and we paid for it, so.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll pay for it.
Hello, everyone. Wait,
It's not shared.
it's not here.
Yeah, I need to.
I see here, it says your screen sharing. Is it not coming up on this one?
I thought I did. but-
Screen sharing. Let's try that. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yes, so I am here this evening to talk about the transportation demand management study, draft scope of work that we put together. So this study was originally identified in the fiscal year 25 UPWP, and it rolled over into the fiscal year 26 UPWP, which stands for the Unified Planning Work Program, as a reminder. So it's been in the MPO's work plan for over a fiscal year, and we wanted to create sort of a very high level scope of work for our committees to respond to, give us some feedback, and just share what we think our approach will be for this study. Included on the slide is an excerpt from the PWP that shares that the idea for a comprehensive TDM study originated during the completion of the last long-range transportation plan, which was adopted by the policy board last May. The intention of the study is to reduce vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, specifically within the Charlottesville downtown area, was how it was originally identified, increase trips made by other modes, and enhance connections of our existing multimodal transportation network. I also added here that this study will be completed by MPO staff, so this will not be a consultant study. It will be something that staff will be completing, and it'll be a really great opportunity to not only check this off in the UPWP, but also be a great learning opportunity to get into some of this local data and build our staff capacity. Before drafting the scope of work, staff reviewed other studies that similarly aligned with what we were looking to do. The first of which is a VMT reduction strategy developed by the MPO in the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area. They used trip characteristics that they identified through a regional travel survey and estimated the feasibility of mode shift for all other trips in their study area based on things like trip distance, competitiveness of travel time, and potential comfort on another mode. This study, and it's linked here in these slides, hopefully it's also linked in your packet. This one most closely aligns with what we'd be looking to do with this study. A second example of what the study could accomplish is illustrated by an active transportation plan that was completed in Florida. This study used streetlight data to identify trip patterns and top origin destination pairs. In this graphic, the thicker the line, the higher the trip volume.
It is, so like, that's all cars. Car vehicles, moving motor vehicles, not pedestrians and
Yes,
bicycles.
for this graphic here. And the final example that we looked at was an origin destination report by another MPO in Florida. This study specifically used replica data, which has a land use component integrated into it to identify travel patterns both within the MPO area and between sub areas. Like most planning efforts, our study would begin with reviewing any relevant planning documents to identify planning context, existing infrastructure, and planned improvements. During this task, we'd also look to establish a baseline. So what's our current understanding of VMT in the region, so that we'd have a benchmark to understand what we're trying to reduce in the future. Next, we would conduct an origin destination analysis to identify trip generators and destinations. We would conduct this analysis using streetlight data, mostly because this platform is available to the MPO free of charge through a contract that VDOT has. It is a big data source, and it also splits trips by mode. And it also can identify the average trip lengths for each of the origin destination pairs that we identify. In task 3, we would assess the potential for shifting those auto trips to non-auto modes like biking or walking. We would consider the trip characteristics that we got from streetlight, consider any existing and planned infrastructure like bike lanes and sidewalk. And we would also consider existing and planned park and ride facilities.
Taylor, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. We're not concerned with getting people out of autos onto public buses as an alternative. It's not just biking and walking.
So we're concerned with any other non-auto. So it can be transit, biking, walking, rolling. And so we look to identify recommended improvements and strategies that would encourage that mode shift and close any gaps in infrastructure. Finally, for task 4, there would be a public engagement component, which is what we would love to hear from you all about here today. So we would minimally conduct a survey to ensure any strategies align with community priorities. And we'd also use that public input to refine recommendations and support any prioritization for improvements. And any improvements or recommendations that come out of this, they might not just be infrastructure, so they could also be land use policy recommended changes. They could be maybe if there's a parking program that someone could implement. And that is some feedback that we've already gotten from Councilor Oshrin. That's something that she'd really be interested in learning more about is Charlottesville enacting some sort of parking program for their employees. And so today we are looking for any recommendations that you all have for public engagement. What would be the most helpful kind of touch points to go to the public to request information? Maybe that's beyond just asking them about priorities or asking them to weigh in about the recommendations. Maybe that's also like a data validation. Does this look right for these identified modes? We've also taken this draft so far as informational to MPO Tech and MPO Policy. And some of the feedback that we've gotten from the MPO Tech Committee is that they really want to see a land use component to this. Someone recommended that we look into Strava data for active transportation to supplement streetlight. And we have gotten access to that free of charge, which is really great that Strava makes that available. And we have access to that for not just the MPO area, but also for the entire TJPDC jurisdiction as well.
Just personally, this sounds like a great use of time, and I look forward to how it comes out. I am curious about, as you we're looking what other jurisdictions do. It's interesting when you think about transportation, like people's patterns match like the infrastructure that's in place. And so, did you see any versions of like creative ways to like project or estimate like the counterfactual? Like someone doesn't ride the bike because there's no multi-use facts. So how do you turn?
Right.
It's like, is anyone trying to figure out how to do that?
Yeah. The very first study did have that component in there. When they did the regional travel survey, it was a much more comprehensive effort, but they did ask people for that type of estimation. And so maybe that's something we can validate in the public engagement kind of task for this is, here's what we see from Strava, from Streetlight. Do these trips look correct if you're an avid cyclist or a runner, maybe? And is there a reason why you take this route instead of maybe what would be a preferred route for you?
And I'm wondering too about the public outreach piece, if there's like giving someone a different future. So it's like helping them visualize. I just spend a lot of my time trying to talk to people about why they do or don't choose these modes. And in a lot of them, like biking, it's always safety. Charlottesville roads are terrible, dangerous, etc. So I feel like it could be instructive to be like, here's Main Street, here's a different version of Main Street. And here's 3, which one would you do? And if it's none, that's okay. But if it's like, oh, well, you would opt into these 2. I wonder if that would be instructive. And then just one final thing is that the UVA recently rolled out this program called Wahoo Commute, which is on the Loon platform. I wonder if they'd be willing, they as in Park and Transportation, to share any of that data.
Yeah.
Because that has origin and roughly origin and destination and mode.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were like working with UVA specifically on this, and because of that, like I work at UVA, so I use that. That's great. I appreciate the program, the platform, and I imagine they're collecting a lot of data from that.
Yeah. And I've heard it's been very successful. Also, that's what we've heard. We have Scott from Parking and Transportation who sits on the Regional Transit Partnership. So he'd definitely probably be willing to share some data with us for this. We can reach out.
What is the policy board voting on August 27th? It's not
So
clear.
they will be voting on the final scope of work at their next meeting.
Final scope of.
Yes, to basically say, we agree with how the study is scoped out, proceed to do the work for it.
So let me ask another question if I might.
Mhm.
Did I understand you to say the focus is on Charlottesville, or is it not the general area covered beyond Charlottesville?
So how it was originally placed into the fiscal year 25 UWP, and this was before my time. The focus was on Charlottesville and it had more of a parking tilt to it. We didn't want to predetermine the solution to say we need more parking before we let the data kind of tell us that, show us that. You know, we communicated with the policy board. If the need is for a parking study, we can certainly make it that, but they did not say that it was a parking study. But we would definitely be looking at the travel within the MPO region, so Charlottesville, urbanized Albemarle. And then also, since we have access to some other data, we can see the trips that are coming from other jurisdictions as well.
But the focus, I keep hearing you saying you're just focusing, there's a lot of travel in
Yeah.
the urban area outside of Charlottesville.
Right.
That never goes into Charlottesville. Is that part of the study? I'm just trying to get you to clarify.
So this is an MPO focused study, so Charlottesville and the urbanized portions of Albemarle.
So it includes the urbanized portion. So
Yes.
how far out is your definition of an urbanized portion?
I wish I had a map.
Yeah,
I'll be able to show you.
Official.
We have boundaries.
It's like, it's the urban area plus Crozet. Marty, I can't believe you didn't know that.
Oh,
You're a veteran. Specific development states.
Nations, I would just really recommend talking with the low income housing groups with PRHA and FAR, PHA. And make sure that they do a lot of engagement in those communities. I think they would be most impacted by this, yeah.
The other thing is, I guess it's a step. Be useful to do, and this is the counterintuitive thing, is the existing but almost wholly unused trail systems. And I've been given to understand, I'm not a cyclist, but that the cities of Boston and Minneapolis are considered to be two of the finest cycling cities in America. And it's not because of the great year-round winter or those courteous Boston drivers. It's because of the extensive greenways that you can just get around the city. And we have that potential right here, right now. It's just undeveloped. And so certainly getting better information, I think your suggestion is, in terms of designing the surveys is kind of turn them inside out, get better feedback that way. That said, the city's been promoting cycling for going on to now 4 decades, and the complaint is the same. It's unsafe. So shoehorning another, 6 blocks of bike lanes in somewhere is certainly beneficial there, but most people won't be in that lane because even though it's there, it's rather unsafe. It's just they still feel safe. To travel from your home on Pantops Mountain to your work at the University of Virginia and never cross a car on what is largely flat ground, because over the millennia, the creek or the river has taken care of the hills, might be it would be very beneficial to the city, and particularly to this issue. And you have the bonus of recreation, which is a big part of something.
Right.
So that would be something I'd look into and see how that works, and perhaps going to your visualization to have overlay maps. When you go to people, say, living in Woolen Mills or Greenbrier or wherever, and have a survey. Suppose you could drive downtown this way instead of this way. on streets? What if you could just follow Meadowbrook down there? Would that be interesting to you? And so that's what I would recommend.
Presenting some different
Is
scenarios.
fold that kind of thinking in.
Right.
So for those of us who are not gonna use bikes, why don't you go to some of the independent living homes where people still have access to cars and ask them what they're doing, how they're using their transportation.
Yeah.
I was also thinking going to like PTOs and schools in the urbanized areas, because so much, it's like dropping your kids off at school and everything, and
Yeah.
how to reduce that traffic.
Another thing to say.
I really like what Ethan said for one thing. I want to echo that. As far as engagement too, I mean, some of the neighborhoods mentioned are the people who tend to have a way to get their voice heard. So PHA, FAR, et cetera, but it's also getting to low income housing neighborhoods, faith communities, ways to reach people who are not necessarily people involved in community, but not getting their voices heard. PTO is a good idea. I was thinking also young adults, 14-year-olds not gonna getting out in their car driving, but 18 and 25-year-olds, and where are they? I don't know where they're hanging out because they're not inviting me to hang out with them. But they tends to be, I mean, that's part of what we're building for is future generations, senior living certainly as well too. But, and I don't know, like, staffing capacity is always a big issue, but I didn't get to the Safe Streets party festival at Washington Park this weekend, or is that, last weekend, I think. But a year ago, I went to that, Peter Krebs had his, at a table, and he had a white chart, and he was just asking people to come up and give, what do you dream of? And it was the most active booth at that festival, other than people giving free food away. So, if there's capacity with that, in places like festival cultures, safe streets, places where, again, not people like most of us, I'll speak for myself at least, I know how to get my voice heard in Charlottesville. A lot of people don't feel like their voice is heard, and I don't know that, I assume that you know that. But those types of outreaches to me would be really, really important.
There's a couple organizations, the Charlottesville United for Public Education, they do a lot of outreach with the public schools in Charlottesville specifically, but I think they have connections with Albemarle. And then they have all the back to school bashes, like tabling at those, to reach families too.
Something else, you think of something else, there are, even though I'm trying to get to the folks that don't, voices aren't generally heard. There are a lot of groups that are working in this space, particularly talking about land use, like PEC, C3, a lot of those groups. Should be considered getting a voice because they are also a lot of those groups are hearing from, because they're C3 particularly doing that outreach to underserved communities and hearing what the barriers are and what people are dreaming of for our future.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you all. This was very helpful.
Yeah,
I'll
and I
incorporate a lot of this into it.
the Center for Community Partnerships, so we have a lot of people on our staff that are like community engagement experts and know everybody, and so if you want, probably like get a meeting with you and then discuss plans.
Get our brothers together.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be really helpful. Thank you.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. All right, and then Taylor, I think you were gonna talk about the Unified Planning Work Program updates.
Yes, and I don't have any formal slides for this one, but there was a memo included in your packet. This is just informational coming to you all. This is the final draft of the Unified Planning Work Program, which is basically the MPO's sort of work list for the fiscal year. This fiscal year was a little unique because we were waiting a long time for a lot of the allocations from our different partners. So usually you wouldn't get an update on this 3 meetings in a row. But we are officially complete. And all of the funds that we received, we got the VDOT allocations, which are the PL funds, and the DRPT allocations, which come from FTA. And that additional money was just added to the same work tasks, the percentages that were broken up and shown to you previously. Any questions about the UPWP?
And then, I think. The staff memo, that's what that was?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then Gloriana, you were gonna talk about the final plan for the police.
Yep. So no presentation again, but the final plan was available to you via link. I have to say, since we last met, we had meetings at all of the jurisdictions that are in the Thomas Jefferson Planning District. All of the boards adopted the plan. The plan was sent to FHWA for review. And FHWA said that it meets all federal requirements. So now our comprehensive safety action plan is complete. You might wonder if the work has been finished, but we still have a little bit of time left until our performance period ends in September. So next we'll be focusing on getting this plan out there to organizations and news medias and so on. We're also going to be gathering some data from other plans to see if there is opportunities for jurisdictions to apply for funding, maybe on a project together, specifically for the systemic improvements like edgeline treatment and other stuff. Another thing that we're working on is the East High Safety Demonstration Project, which was part of the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant. We're meeting with city staff on the 25th to discuss the plans for that project. So we all see how that's gonna look like, see what feedback they have. And the last thing I want to talk about is the application for the Safe Streets and Roads for All in partnership with UVA and Honda. That was submitted the day of the application, June 26th. So we're eagerly awaiting a decision by FHWA, which we don't know when that's gonna be, but keep you posted.
Thank you. I had a question. I know you said that this opens up funding opportunities. What was the funding for that come from?
So that's gonna come from also FHWA. It's gonna be in the form of implementation funding. There's for certain one more round, which is gonna be application period is gonna open next year. There's gonna be about $1 billion, and since that is being the final round for now, that means that implementation projects are gonna be highly competitive, so more of the funding is gonna be allocated towards that part rather than planning activities, so.
And then I think you were saying that the Safe Streets and Roads for All, like your work, the scope of work is ending soon, but is that going to be part of the scope of work to continue to apply for funding under this, or is that left to the jurisdiction?
Yeah, so that's left to the jurisdictions, but TJPDC can certainly help all of the jurisdictions with application and grant management in the future.
Thank you. And then Sarah, I think you're gonna talk about the policy board activities.
Yes, there's not really much to talk about because you have a memo in the packet, but this is just to help support CTAC, making you all aware of what's the policy board doing, what's the policy board taking action on. And so in the memo, you will see what happened in the last meeting in June and what's happening in August. And the first part of the memo just states the general agenda, the policy board. So in June, as you can see, similar to what we have here, they have to take attendance, public matters. So it's a good idea to, I don't know if you have a chance to review the minutes or discuss what they talked about it. They talked about during the meeting, but during their past meeting in June, like Taylor was saying, this travel demand management study was presented. They took action on the Charlottesville area transit FTA low or no emission grant application, and they made some tip amendments. But next August meeting, the MPO Policy Board will be voting on the scope of work like Taylor just presented. But also there will also be voting on the travel demand model update, which is different than the travel demand study, but I guess they go a long way, similar. But this is a requirement that by VDOT, and so the travel demand model is I don't know how to make the difference the difference between what she just said, but basically similar to what Taylor was presenting on. The travel demand model is just an estimation, I'm sure you all know this, about travel patterns, behaviors based on data, including population, employment, and land use. So the policy board will be taking action on that one at the next meeting.
What action, they're gonna vote to approve it?
On the data that we are
Mhm.
proposing.
So the travel,
Using that model.
the travel demand model is a forecasting tool that every single MPO has to develop. And there's a minor update, I think every 5 years, a major update every 10 years. And this is primarily used for the long range transportation plan to forecast traffic way out into the future. And what the policy board will be approving are the employment and the population data inputs that go into the model. And so they're just gonna be looking at them, making sure everything looks correct to them and saying, yes, you can use this in the model. And just a little more context, we developed this, Sarah made the suggestion for us to produce just like something to show you all what the MPO Policy Board was working on at their meeting so that you all could be a little bit more informed about the actions that they're taking. Hopefully this is helpful. If it's maybe not the right format, let us know. But this was sort of our first effort at giving you a little bit more information about what they're doing. The one caveat I will give is sometimes we do have late breaking items that get added to our agendas for our committees last minute, right before the packet goes out. And so what you'll see on here for whatever the next meeting is, will be staff's best guess at the time for what's gonna be on those agendas.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful to know
Awesome.
what's gonna be talked about at the next one already. I think that we were able to provide advice for the transportation demand management study.
Yeah.
Was there any like action that we needed to discuss about the travel demand model update?
No.
Okay.
And it's really a technical data
Mhm.
kind of piece
Yeah.
rather than a going out to the public and asking the public about it.
Thank you so much. Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to like this, quickly the calendar meeting for fiscal year 26. Taylor.
Yes. So this item is to basically decide on the meeting dates and times for this fiscal year. So today is your first meeting of the fiscal year, but you will still have at least 5 more to get to that at least 6 that's in your bylaws. A couple changes that we've made. So the MPO Policy Board, their meetings stayed the same for this fiscal year. For MPO Tech, we recommended and they agreed with that we would move them from, I believe they were the second week, and we moved them to the first week of the month so that staff would have a little bit more of a buffer between technical committee and policy board so that we could make any changes as requested by a technical committee and get those materials ready for the packet. So right now you all meet every other third Wednesday at 7 p.m. Our recommendation would be every other last Wednesday of the month to bring you a little bit closer to MPO Tech. And that would make it a little bit easier for us to know we'd be able to anticipate what's going to be on MPO Tech agenda and bring those items to you a little sooner. And so I know it's been a challenge. Things tend to come to you all after it's already been to Tech and Policy Board. I think there's been a little bit of a gap between our meetings and the meeting cadence, if that makes sense. And you all are in sort of an off month also. And so if you move to the last Wednesday of the month, that would bring you just a little bit.
Last Wednesday or fourth.
The last Wednesday, but it can be the 4th if that's
But
what you.
then it would always be 2 weeks until the tech committee and then 2 weeks after that until the policy, or then.
Well, when we looked, it seemed almost even. Some would be like the week before, some would be 2 weeks before.
Okay. That's, does anybody have any preferences? I think, yeah, I think making them closer together makes a lot of sense.
So, no, just look, quickly November, that's the night before Thanksgiving, so I can't imagine that's gonna work for me.
And we can change that one as well. For our other committees, we've been kind of putting the dates in front of them and then folks can move around as necessary or.
And we could go party on the Christmas sort of times too. Oh, no, because it's November, yeah. Okay.
Also consider which ones will be virtual.
Last year we did the.
January.
January.
It's because nobody wants to come in the dark and.
Yeah, I think January makes sense. I'd be happy to do, I guess we couldn't do November or. In January, March.
No, that'd be, yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be sequential, so, yeah, if you do January, you can't do March or November.
We could do November and March and then just suck it up for 1 month. Does anybody have any preferences? I'm happy with. With suggestion.
January makes the most sense to me. That's
Do you like to bring it to, is it a voting matter, or are we just gonna know it? I think, let's just agree to it. Okay, that sounds good. And then,
And so for my notes, sorry, what was the one that we landed on?
January,
January is a virtual meeting, okay.
would we wanna do a virtual in the summer too? I feel like that might be easy for folks who are traveling, maybe. Like, it's late, it's already past for the July one, but this one would have been great for me to do virtually, you know? I guess.
July seems to be the time when most vacations converge, if you're gonna pick a month.
Yeah, you can have 3, so.
But this is FY 26.
Yeah, I know,
We
but
have FY
then
27.
but we'd have to decide it in that July meeting, so I feel like we could probably decide it now for next.
Yeah.
year.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Make it
otherwise
that
we would
now.
always have to meet in person. And then we could do another one, but. I don't know that we need to.
Oh, I thought you said July, December and
It
January.
was just
No.
January and. July.
Okay,
January.
I see. Okay,
Mhm.
I thought you said December.
I said December, but I was wrong because we don't meet in December.
That's
We
right.
meet on the other months.
November
Yeah.
would have been the month. Yeah.
Mhm.
Does the time still work for everyone?
And then, you have that VDOT, or can we move on? Sorry. I wanna get out of here.
And so did we, sorry,
yeah.
so the last Wednesday of the month, does that work for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome, we'll get those calendar invites out to people.
Any VDOT updates?
I can update you on the STAR studies. We're getting ready to have the public community involvement meeting for the Ridge Street study in the city. It's going to be the second week, I think, in the week of the 11th of August. I think that we're settling on the 14th. We don't know for sure the date. We're still finalizing that, but we're going to be having a informational meeting. And we're not, I think it's going to be at City Space, but we're still trying to nail down the location. At the same time, we're going to kick off the next round of public input because we're going to be presenting on some alternatives that we've come up with for that area. So we'll be presenting that information at the meeting and as well as kicking off the survey for public outreach. The other STAR study on 29 Corridor North, we had the initial public outreach meeting. We're actually working on the existing conditions report and the traffic forecast and finalizing the phase 2 scope. For the other 2 pipeline studies on 5th Street and the 118 exit 29, 118, we had the public survey information. We had the second SW stakeholders working group meeting, and we are finalizing. We're waiting on the development of the existing conditions report so that we can review that and then start the phase 2 portion of that study, those 2 studies also. So that's pretty much all I have for that. The other thing I will say, we're meeting with Albemarle County next week to start the round 7 smart scale. We'll be kicking off that meeting with them and trying to look at possible applications for them for next time so we can make sure we got all the studies that need to be done for those done, and we will be circling up with, I think the MPO is going to be in that meeting also. So we're going to be kicking those meetings off probably in the next month with the various localities across the district.
Would you be able to, would somebody be able to email this committee when that, public input meeting, the Ridge Street study is scheduled? Or should we just-
Yes.
I think that would be really.
Yeah, we're going to send out, we'll send out public outreach material and try to communicate. And I know we'll be copying the MPO, and they're going to be sending out notifications for you all, as well as the other committees.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions about VDOT programs? No? All right, roundtable updates. This could be the time when you would share what you want me to bring to the policy board. Anything specific about what we heard today or anything else that is going on. So if everybody wants to go around and say something, that would be very fun for me.
I took one note down earlier. I've been very curious about this CAT advisory board, which sort of I was appointed to in 2020 and then proceeded to never ever meet.
Okay.
I'd be curious to get the opinion of someone. Really, I've surely struggled to get an answer why it's not meeting. But I wonder, like, if one alternative could be that this, if it's not going to meet, this committee could subsume its role as whatever it was initially intended to do, which I think was focused more on public transportation. But it seems like we've been in one of them, like, most disruptive and transformative period of public transportation in Charlottesville's, I don't know, recent history at least, and we've had no, that body has not met through that whole period of time, which is, I think, unfortunate.
Yeah, there's no one going on. Thank you. Nothing for you, okay. Marty?
Nothing. I was just thinking for a second. We still have some traffic issues that don't seem to be addressed, sort of local traffic issues. I wonder if I sat for, I'll give you my own, 10 minutes at River Road and 250. And that's East Main Street and River Road, for 10 minutes in the middle of the day. So I just think I don't know whether that's a VDOT, and I think that I hear other complaints around the area. Whether the MPO whether really take a hard look at the traffic flows, even though I said that was not my focus. But I do think there's gotta be something a little bit better than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, to two of those, to becoming more aware of traffic and bikes and all this stuff around transportation and whatnot is a blessing and a curse. Because now it drives me crazy how poorly our traffic lights are still synced. The red lights, it'll stop 30 cars going on a main road, so one car can get by. It's inefficient, it's dangerous, people then drive crazy because they don't pay attention to it. And it's a terrible waste of emissions having all these cars sitting still. So it still boggles my mind. I know there are smarter traffic lights, and nobody ever seems to think that that's a good investment on investing more in smart traffic lights. My bigger traffic concern out because the MPOs have freaking dangerous people driving this community. It gets worse. A motorcycle flew by me in a passed up Garth Road today. I was doing the speed limit. It just drives me crazy. But that's MPO. But adding to Ethan's point, I amplify that it's not just CAT. There doesn't seem to be good mechanisms for getting riders feedback to policymakers. CAT doesn't do it, as near as I can tell, John. I don't know, UTS may do it up to the board business, but that doesn't do the rest of us in the community anything. So the health district and CAA, Charlottesville Alliance, I'm a member of, looked to try and figure some of that out. They ran into there. There doesn't seem to be a lot of interest from the powers that be. in getting that information and then sharing it with people who do anything with it. It's very internally helpful information you do get. I shared frustration I was on the cat when I was board years ago. Part of why it doesn't move is it didn't function very well when I was on it. I was on it for 5 years. And I'm like, when is my term up? My work was getting busy. I'm like, I need to get off some of these things. Like, I didn't have a term and I've been on 5 years. And I couldn't think of one thing we had done. Sure. Which made it really easy to resign. But there is a need, and I support that as something that policy, like the MPO Policy Board should be aware of, and at least see what that assigned to city council, presumably. Because I don't think nobody's pushing the point from above.
A lot of times it's about writing your congressman. You know,
And, the voices of the city voters are clear. They want better voice for walkability, bikeability, transit, and this, the last election was mind-boggling. On top of Natalie's election 2 years ago, so seems like the time's up.
I thought I was very gratified by this presentation tonight.
It was incredible.
Because to your point, of sitting there for 5 years and doing nothing. The experience and mine is very, very minor.
They have a lot going on. There's a lot of problems that does not excuse, like,
These guys are on.
the city manager is very committed to getting the stuff that hasn't been getting done for years.
Yes.
Getting caught up. I am very committed to Sam's efforts to really, hear and go, why is this not happening? And what can we do about it? So thanks for where.
One more.
Let's get
Charlie.
Nathan, see if Nathan has anything
Um,
that you would like to bring to the table.
I appreciate the question. I've been listening mostly and just taking some notes to share back to the planning commission.
Thank you.
Could I ask, the walking road, the street, the bridge that's going over 29 by Zen Road? I have been getting so many questions about why we have it and what's the real purpose of it, because people who are thinking it's going to be a way to get the shopping on one side or the other, say they can't picture seniors in particular going up and down the ramps. How do I answer them?
People do cross the highway
Yeah.
there. And
I
there
understand
have
that.
been
It
steps there.
came out of the fact that nobody wanted to put enough money into fixing the hydraulic
Yeah,
road
yes, yeah,
intersections.
I
And
understand.
there's a lot of people who live on the old giant food side. I can't get my directions.
No, I understand.
Who can't get
There's
across
gonna be
now.
apartments
And
there
vice
or
versa.
something. But meanwhile, people are saying we can't go shopping because we have to drag a shopping cart up and down the ramp. So why did we even bother investing instead of putting the light? That's the real question that I must get at least once a week, from somebody.
I think they're not aware of how many people are gonna use that pedestrian bridge.
Yeah.
Wait, I would suggest, if your question is what you're gonna ask them, wait and see, it's being built, let's see how much it gets used.
It'll be a lot.
It's only be open a couple months.
No, the bridge, yeah, I know it's open.
Yes.
Okay, peace.
All right, thank you. I'm ready to call this meeting to a close.
These are honest.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. So the success.
Good to see y'all.
This is weird. Okay, well, thank you for your. Okay,